Hey guys, Angry Beast here, bringing you 2 Tuesdays, episode 1, where this is where I basically post 2 videos in one day, or one long video really. And the first game here, using the Scar H with stopping power, Scavenger, and Scrambler. I do like Scrambler on my Scar H simply because it gives me a little bit more close range power. A lot of people never really cared for Scrambler, but I think it was one of those perks that was misused. It should be used as a defensive weapon, not an offensive weapon. I can draw people to me with Scrambler who normally wouldn't even know it was there. And if I can draw people towards me, then I can kill them as they try and come for the easy kill on the noob who's running Scrambler. But anyways, the number one thing that the Scar H has for it is it has excellent long-range capabilities. I think it has the best long-range capabilities of any assault rifle, other than maybe the ACR, which is a little bit more accurate and a higher rate of fire, but it has less damage at range. So I think the Scar has a very good balance between damage and rate of fire, which is what makes it so deadly in the right hands. In this game, I'm using the tactical insertions and the smoke grenades, which is how I like to run my Scar. I don't think that it needs the advantage of the Semtex or the flashbangs to be effective. I think that I can use it as an offensive weapon by using smoke grenades and attack inserts to help win the game for my team. This first game does end a little bit short. Teammate calls it a nuke. One thing I found interesting is that I end up having more points than him, even though he calls it a nuke. Just something that I found interesting, and it's something that just funny to me. But overall, the Scar is a well-rounded weapon that can be used for pretty much any role you want. I think my secondary in this game is the Striker, and one thing that's always struck me about the Striker is that in Modern Warfare 2, it was the weakest shotgun. There was no two ways about it, except for maybe the underbarrel shotgun. There wasn't a shotgun that was weaker than the Striker. But in Modern Warfare 3, it's considered to be the best shotgun. And yet, there were no changes to it made from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3. So that tells me that the Modern Warfare 2 shotguns are just miles ahead of the Modern Warfare 3 ones, and that's why I think that the Striker was never an issue in Modern Warfare 3. Even with the extended mags and damage glitch that was going around, it really never compared to the power of the Spaz 12 in Modern Warfare 2. So I just feel like the shotguns in Modern Warfare 3 just don't compare to what they really could have been, and it's unfortunate, but you know, it's just one of those things that you have to live with. Unfortunately, that's one of the disadvantages of using a tactical insertion, is sometimes they'll spawn right on top of an enemy, and there isn't too much you can do there, other than hopefully getting the lucky aimed on sight kill on them, which is rare, but it can happen. I mean, it's not something that never happens. It's just one of those things where half the time it's a crapshoot, really. I mean, half the time you're going to get it, half the time you're not. And it just ends up being, do you want the advantage of being closer to the flag at the risk of having an extra death? Or do you want to just play it safe and have to run all the way to the flags or whatnot? In my opinion, it's worth the risk with a tactical insertion if you're playing it objectively like I am here. My whole point in this game was to get my kill streaks up so I could protect the flags. And I think in this game I'm using Predator Missile, Harrier, and Pavlo. I think in the second game here I used the UAV, the Predator Missile, and the Harrier. But I really do like the Pavlo. I've been using it a lot more recently. And it's just a really good kill streak when enemies are shooting down air support, because it's very difficult to shoot down a Pavlo, just simply because it takes 2 Stinger missiles and it just is constantly destroying people. And if you're anywhere near a teammate without cold-blooded, you will get destroyed by Pavlo. Number one thing with the Scar is you probably don't want to be using the red dot sight on it. I know I'm using the red dot sight in this gameplay, but overall I'd say the red dot sight is a waste of an attachment. My personal favorite way to run the Scars with FMJ or extended mags, simply because I think those two attachments give the most benefit than something like a red dot sight or a silencer, which reduces the range to like nothing on this gun. So overall, I'd say unless you're using cold-blooded, that you want to run FMJ on this thing. Extended mags is nice when you unlock it, but it really doesn't have the same benefit as FMJ in this game. I just find that a lot of people like to hide in windows in this game, and that leads to FMJ being a very powerful perk in your inventory to use, and it just ends up being an all-around good attachment that I would recommend no matter what the situation is. When you are using the red dot sight, one thing you're going to have to remember is that you can be a little bit more accurate at range. However, in my personal opinion, it's not worth it, because I feel like the red dot sight increases recoil. Now, I know it does not. It's just a personal feel thing. I think it just feels like it has more recoil when I put the red dot sight on it than without, which is one of those things where you just have to learn that you have to really pop shot at long ranges with this weapon. It's unfortunate. It's the highest accuracy long range rifle that has damage really at long range, but it does still have to be pop shotted. If you try to full automatic it, you'll probably miss 30% of your shots. With a normal assault rifle, that's not too big of an issue. 30% of your shots is just a couple more bullets. But when you got a low ammo capacity like the Scar H, you really don't have the room to miss too many shots with the Scar. Now, as far as the grenade launcher is concerned on the Scar, I would definitely give that a miss. It really doesn't give it that much more of an advantage. It's already a very powerful close-range assault rifle. It only takes 2 bullets to kill it close, and the grenade launcher just takes too long to launch, in my opinion. But, you know, it comes down to personal preference as far as attachments go. And the ACOG sight is definitely something I have to say no on. There's no way I could recommend the ACOG. It just has too much recoil on this weapon to make it any sort of usefulness. But anyway, I'm one away from my Pavlo right here, and the Pavlo is just one of those kill streaks it can either work or it doesn't. In this game, it really goes to town here. Even though I only call it in with like a minute before the teammate calls in a nuke, it really can go to work for you, the Pavlo, because it'll just constantly mow down people, and it kind of slips through the gaps that the chopper gunner might not. Because my teammate has a chopper gunner up right now, and when he finishes his chopper gunner, I think that he calls in his nuke. So that doesn't leave too much time for my Pavlo to kill people, but I think it still gets like 5 or 6 kills. But anyways, guys, the gameplay is sort of winding down here, and number one thing about this weapon is that you really have to use stopping power on it. I don't think there's many other second tier perk choices that work, simply because it only has a 20 round capacity. On the Tavor or the F2000, you have a little bit more room to mess around with, simply because you have a higher ammo capacity, which is a very, very powerful trait for a weapon. If a weapon has only a small ammo capacity, then you're not going to be able to kill as many people, and that's a big part of Call of Duty, is actually killing the people. Surprise, surprise, a first-person shooter, the most important thing is to be able to kill people. And without bullets to kill people, it's pretty much impossible to do. And at this point, my Pavlo is just going to town on people. I think it gets at least 1 or 2 more kills here at the end, just before the nuke goes off, which is what the Pavlo is good for, and it just ends up being a very good kill streak, and I definitely recommend it. But we're about to jump into the second gameplay here. I end up the game going 29-11, defending a lot of the flags, playing objectively. I wasn't quite sure if my teammates were going for a nuke, and in the second gameplay, the video capture messes up a little bit at the beginning, so you don't get to see my whole countdown or whatnot. But just note that I did join the game. It's not like some weird thing I'm trying to hide up what I'm doing. I joined the game on my own, and that's what happened. As far as in this game, what I was trying to do is I was trying to play defensively and protect the B flag on this map. On this map, the B flag is critical. High Rise is a map that's known for its spawn lock, and if you do not have B, you can't spawn lock. It's just that simple. As soon as your team can get B, the sooner you can spawn lock them and just basically build up your kill streaks, which is what I try to do in this game. I think I end up being the one to capture B, which is unfortunate. You don't usually want to be the one person doing that, especially when you're using a defensive class like this one with Scavenger and Stopping Power. But it can work out to your advantage, and when you combine it with Tackle Insertion and a Smoke Grenade, then it can really work out to your advantage if you play it correctly. I started walking along a catwalk here. In general, I wouldn't recommend this. You're just leaving yourself a wide open target. There's no real tactical advantage to this other than getting a better vantage point. Unless you're just going across the other side, in which case this is pretty good, because I personally don't look over here that often. And you can jump down to the left there into the building, and it can actually work out pretty well that way. But unless you're playing it like that, I generally would not recommend trying to jump through all the stuff there. Unfortunately, I get sniped across the map before I can go inside the building there, which is unfortunate. I mean, there really isn't too much I could have done. I just had a guy who had a good line of sight on me, and I paid the price for it. And that's what you give up when you go up there. You have a whole bunch of good lines of sight onto that spot, and if you don't check your corners and watch for people trying to snipe you across the map from there, then it's just not going to work out in your advantage. But at this point, I've captured B, and now I'm like, okay, let's kill all the people, and let's push them back into their spawn. And that's the most important thing about High Rise. If you can kill everybody off in one quick dose, then there's no way they're going to be able to get out of their spawn for pretty much the rest of the game. Unless they're going to go underground and loop all the way around to get to the back flag. And even then, they're probably going to be using Marathon Lightweight, which means they're not going to be able to kill you that effectively. You could probably snipe them off the flag with an assault rifle or a sniper. So this position right here is actually one I would recommend over the catwalks to the left. Because it has a more advantage. It has cover in front of me. I got the barrels I can duck behind, and I have a good line of sight over into their spawn. And this is just a very powerful position overall. But I don't think the Scar is well suited to this role right here. It's a little bit of long range for the Scar, simply because it has enough recoil to the point where you have to burst fire. I mean, you'll see it throughout this gameplay. I'm burst firing the whole time, and it's unfortunate the Scar has enough recoil for that to be an issue. But you know, it's one way they use to balance the weapon. I don't know. I just feel like the Scar, if it had had a little bit less recoil, would have been a perfect assault rifle that had only 20-round magazine, which would have really balanced it out in my opinion. But it does have the nice damage and pretty good long-range accuracy, so I'm not complaining too much. You just have to remember to pop fire it a little bit every time, and you'll be okay with it. I think I am using the exact same setup in this game. One thing that I really want to stress is my use of Scrambler. A lot of people don't like the perk, and I don't understand why. I think it's a very powerful perk for what it should be used. Scrambler is a great complement to a class that is playing defensive, because guess what? When you're playing defensive, you don't need steady aim. You're playing defensive, you don't need last stand, really. You're playing defensive, you don't need dead silence or ninja or whatever that is. And when you're playing defensively, the only other thing that could really help is sit rep, and that only helps if you have the pro version, because you're not moving, you're not going to be killed by claymores too often. I just feel like it's the best complement to a long-range class, because it draws people towards you in such a way that you can kill them as they come to you, especially if you have a choke point set up like here, and you have a weapon that's somewhat good at close range like the Scar. I mean, it's not the best at close range. Devore beats it out there. But close range, it can still hold its own. I draw people towards me, getting myself more kills to help my team more. And it helps draw people off the B flag and away from the objectives, which is what this class is meant to do. It's meant to be a nuisance. It's not meant to be a super kill everybody, get the best score on the team. It's meant to be a class that's used for just basically being a nuisance and killing all the people who are trying to capture the flags and just be a defender. And this is my way of playing domination. I think if I can play like this, I help my team the most. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen too often. Normally, I'm the one getting, my team's the one that's getting spawn locked. But I'm lucky enough in this game to get into a team that has some skill at the game. And one thing that really frustrates me about the Scar H is that it's very difficult to reload cancel. I don't think it has any reload cancel time at all unless you completely empty it, which is unfortunate, but it does give it a little bit more balance, I suppose. But you'll see it later on in this game. I'm trying to shoot at a guy who's climbing up the ladder to the gas tank up there to the left, and I was reloading, and I just failed the reload cancel, and that's just what happens a lot for me. I do that with a lot of weapons, in fact. I do it all the time with the F2000, and it's just very frustrating because I feel like I should have had completed the reload at that point. I think an interesting feature for a perk would be, instead of something like sleight of hand, instead of halving the reload, which is a little bit unrealistic. Maybe if you made it so that as you started to reload, you could pause the reload halfway and switch your secondary weapon, so that way you wouldn't be completely destroyed by a failed reload cancel, and it would just end up helping you quite a bit, especially on the LMGs, which have long reload times. If I could have the reload paused halfway while I switch weapons, I think that'd be a lot better than the sleight of hand, which gives you just a raw half decrease. It'd just be an advantage that'd be interesting to see in a game. Maybe it goes along with sleight of hand. Maybe that would be sleight of hand's pro perk, the ability to pause your reload halfway, and I think that they would complement each other quite well. But at this point, I picked up a P90 with rapid fire, and as I've said before, the P90 is one of my favorite weapons. But one thing I did learn recently is that the whole rapid fire glitch is a myth. I tested it, and it actually increases rate of fire by about 25%. So I definitely use rapid fire on the P90. That's a good thing to note. I do have a gameplay coming up with that on Skid Row with it, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, just rushing and killing all the people, and that's how the P90 is meant to be used. If you notice, I'm running low on ammo here, and a care package drops, and it's an AC-130, and I go all giddy, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's an AC-130, and I jump off the edge. You know, it would be really funny if I had killed myself there, but I didn't. Unfortunately, I don't get the AC-130. My teammate comes down, and he steals it from me as soon as I'm about to get it, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I would have loved the AC-130 there. It's just one of those kill streaks that I don't have unlocked yet. I'm not high enough rank to have enough unlocked keys for it. But one day I will have that thing, and I'll just be raining down fire from above with it. The AC-130 really is horrid on this map. There isn't much other ways around it other than the fact that it just doesn't do much on this map. Because there's just so many buildings, there isn't too much room for an AC-130 to come in and fly down and destroy people. I'd say the chopper gunner is better because it lasts longer, and you can just sit in front of the windows and just kill people as soon as they spawn. But you guys probably already know that. I mean, the game's like 3 years old at this point, and it just comes down to the fact that the AC-130 is only good in certain situations. Yeah, this gameplay is winding down. It turns out to be something like a 30 and a 6 with the Scar. This is me playing defensive. I know I'm playing defensive. I'm just going to say it right now. This isn't camping. I'm defending the B flag the entire time. But, yeah, the number one thing you can do with the Scar is you can play the objective a lot better than I think any other assault rifle can. Because it has the high damage and the good range accuracy, as well as it has nice clean iron sights. You don't have to rely on a red dot sight to get your kills. You can use a silencer with cold-blooded, you can use FMJ with stopping power, and you can tear through people. And that's what the weapon's good for. It's a good all-around assault rifle. Its only real failures are with its magazine. It's got only 20 rounds in the mag, as well as it has fail reload cancel, which is unfortunate. But you know, if you use extended mags, it probably isn't too big of an issue. Yeah, the number one thing you can take away though from the Scar is it's a good all-around weapon. If you want an all-around weapon that will kill everybody, it's great. But in Modern Warfare 3, they brought the Scar back, and I don't care for the Scar L in Modern Warfare 3. I've said it multiple times, but the Scar L in Modern Warfare 3 is terrible in my opinion. It took away all the advantages of the Scar and having a high damage weapon, and it added even more recoil to it, which is unfortunate. I mean, yeah, they had to do something to it because it was a good weapon. But they gave it a 30-round mag and basically increased the recoil on it, which is a bad move in my opinion. It shoots a lighter cartridge now, so it's not doing as much damage. It does now a 3 to 4 instead of a 2 to 3 hit kill. So it just doesn't have the same advantage that it used to. And its main advantage in the Scar H was the fact that it had high damage and low recoil, and it doesn't have that anymore. So I just feel like it's outclassed completely by a weapon like the ACR, which shoots just about as fast, has less recoil, has more damage over range, and it just feels like they failed some stuff in the Modern Warfare 3 weapon balancing. As far as the Scar is concerned, at least, it just doesn't stack up to the other assault rifles, in my opinion, in Modern Warfare 3. But the game ends up being a 36 with the Scar. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Angry Beast, and I'm signing out, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.